Hello, devoted readers of TV Day's Drama Digest. Buckle up, because today we're diving headfirst into the turbulent, emotional whirlwind that is the latest saga rocking Salem. The stakes have never been higher as two beloved characters, Ariana and Holly, find themselves ensnared in a dangerous web spun by none other than Doug Williams' reckless decisions. With a rescue mission underway, a town on edge, and a tidal wave of consequences looming, we're left wondering. Will Doug's actions force him to leave Salem for good? Let's unravel this gripping tale, layer by layer, and explore the drama, heartbreak, and redemption, or lack thereof, that awaits. A town in turmoil, the catalyst of Doug's debt. Salem, the picturesque yet perpetually drama-laden town we know and love, is no stranger to chaos. But this time, the turmoil stems from a deeply personal failing, Doug Williams' insurmountable debt. For too long, Doug has lingered on the periphery of Salem's spotlight, a character whose presence has often felt like a faint echo compared to the vibrant personalities that dominate the town's narrative. His storylines, if we're being honest, have lacked the spark to captivate audiences. He's been a background figure, overshadowed by the likes of Rafe, Gabby, and Nicole, whose lives pulse with intensity and intrigue. But now, Doug has unwittingly thrust himself into the center of a crisis that threatens to tear apart families and shake Salem to its core. It all began with whispers of Doug's financial troubles, rumors that swirled through the town's coffee shops and dimly lit bars. Word on the street was that Doug had fallen deep into debt, borrowing heavily from a dangerous loan shark whose reputation for ruthlessness sent chills down the spines of even Salem's toughest residents. The details of how Doug amassed this debt remain murky, shrouded in the kind of secrecy that only fuels speculation. Was it a desperate attempt to fund a failing business venture? A reckless gambling spree? Or perhaps a misguided effort to reclaim relevance in a town that had long since moved on from him? Whatever the cause, Doug's inability to repay his debts set off a catastrophic chain of events that would drag two innocent young women, Holly and Ariana, into a nightmare. The kidnapping. A heart-stopping turn of events. The news hit Salem like a thunderbolt. Ariana, the spirited niece of Detective Rafe Hernandez, and Holly, the cherished daughter of Nicole Walker, had been kidnapped. The culprits? The loan shark's enforcers, a pair of menacing figures who operate in the shadows, their faces obscured, but their intent crystal clear. They were sending a message to Doug: pay up, or those he holds dear will pay the price instead. The town reeled in shock, its residents gripped by a mixture of fear, anger, and disbelief. How could Doug, a man who had once been a respected member of the community, allow his troubles to endanger two innocent lives? Ariana, with her fiery spirit and infectious smile, is a beloved figure in Salem. As Rafe's niece, she's grown up under the protective watch of her uncle, who has always treated her like a daughter. Holly, meanwhile, carries the weight of her mother Nicole's legacy. A legacy of resilience, heartbreak, and fierce maternal love. The thought of these two young women, bound and terrified in some unknown hideout, sent waves of panic through their families and friends. The streets of Salem, usually bustling with gossip and intrigue, fell silent as the gravity of the situation sank in. This wasn't just a crime, it was a violation of the town's very heart. Rafe takes charge. A hero's resolve. Enter Rafe Hernandez, Salem's steadfast detective and a man whose loyalty to his family knows no bounds. When Tate and Doug Williams III, frantic and guilt-ridden, burst into the police station begging for help, Rafe's response was immediate and unwavering. As Ariana's uncle, his determination to bring her home safely burned with a personal intensity. But his commitment extended beyond family ties. Holly, as Nicole's daughter, was just as much a priority. Rafe knew that failure was not an option. The weight of two lives rested on his shoulders, and he was ready to move heaven and earth to save them. Rafe's plan was swift and meticulous. Drawing on his years of experience, he assembled a task force of Salem's finest officers, each one briefed on the urgency of the situation. The loan shark, a shadowy figure known only as the Viper, was notorious for his elusiveness. His operation was a labyrinth of safe houses, coded messages, and hired muscle, making the rescue mission a high-stakes gamble. Rafe, however, was undeterred. He pored over maps, interrogated informants, and followed every lead, no matter how faint. His nights were sleepless, his days consumed by the singular goal of bringing Ariana and Holly home. The town watched in awe as Rafe transformed into a force of nature. His usual calm demeanor gave way to a steely resolve, his eyes burning with a mix of fear and determination. For Rafe, this was more than a case, it was a mission to protect the people he loved and to restore peace to a town teetering on the edge of chaos. Spoilers suggest that Rafe's efforts will push him to his limits, forcing him to confront not only the physical dangers of the rescue, but also the emotional toll of knowing that every second counts. Gabi's fury. A mother's wrath unleashed while Rafe spearheaded the rescue. Gabi Hernandez, Ariana's mother, was a tempest of emotions. The news of her daughter's kidnapping struck her like a physical blow, leaving her oscillating between paralyzing fear and searing anger. Gabi, known for her fiery personality and unyielding love for her family, was not one to sit idly by. She paced the floors of her home, her mind racing with images of Ariana, her laughter, her stubborn streak, her dreams for the future. The thought that her daughter was in the clutches of a merciless loan shark was unbearable. Gabi's anger, however, found a clear target: Doug Williams. It was Doug's recklessness, his failure to manage his debts, that had put Ariana and Holly in danger. As the hours ticked by, Gabi's frustration grew into a white-hot rage. How could Doug, a man who had known Ariana since she was a child, allow his mistakes to endanger her? How could he live with himself, knowing that his actions had torn two families apart? Gabi vowed that when this was over, she would confront Doug and make him understand the depth of the pain he had caused. The rescue mission, a race against time. The rescue operation was a masterclass in tension and strategy. Rafe, Tate, and Doug Williams III worked tirelessly, their every move calculated to outsmart the Viper's enforcers. Tate, Holly's friend and a young man with a heart full of courage, was driven by guilt and desperation. He blamed himself for not noticing Doug's downward spiral sooner, for not stepping in before things escalated. Doug III, meanwhile, grappled with the weight of his father's legacy. He loved Doug but couldn't ignore the devastation his father's choices had wrought. The mission unfolded under the cover of darkness, in a derelict warehouse on the outskirts of Salem. The air was thick with tension as Rafe's team surrounded the building, their flashlights cutting through the fog like beacons of hope. Inside, Ariana and Holly sat huddled together, their wrists bound and their faces pale but defiant. The Viper's enforcers, two hulking figures with cold eyes, stood guard, unaware that their time was running out. What followed was a heart-pounding sequence of events that will go down in Salem's history as one of its most dramatic moments. Rafe's team breached the warehouse, their movements swift and silent. A tense standoff ensued, with shouted commands and the glint of weapons in the dim light. Ariana and Holly, caught in the crossfire, clung to each other, their fear tempered by the faint hope that rescue was near. Rafe's voice, steady and commanding, cut through the chaos, demanding the girls' release. When one of the enforcers made a move, Rafe's quick thinking and sharpshooting skills neutralized the threat, bringing the confrontation to a swift and decisive end. As the dust settled, Ariana and Holly were freed, their tearful reunion with Rafe a moment of pure, unadulterated relief. Gabi, waiting anxiously at the police station, collapsed into her brother's arms when he returned with her daughter. Nicole, too, was overcome with emotion as she held Holly close, vowing never to let her out of her sight again. The town breathed a collective sigh of relief, but the scars of the ordeal would linger. The fallout, Gabi's confrontation, and Doug's reckoning with Ariana and Holly safe, the focus shifted to Doug. Gabi, her relief quickly giving way to fury, sought him out. The confrontation was explosive, a clash of raw emotion and unfiltered truth. Gabi's words were like daggers, each one cutting deeper as she laid bare the consequences of Doug's actions. "You put my daughter in danger," she seethed, her voice trembling with rage. "You let your mess spill over onto innocent lives. How dare you call yourself a part of this town?" Doug, for his part, was a broken man. The weight of his mistakes pressed down on him, his face etched with guilt and shame. He tried to explain, to apologize, but his words felt hollow in the face of Gabi's righteous anger. The town, too, turned its back on him. Whispers followed him wherever he went, the once familiar faces of Salem now cold and unforgiving. Doug had crossed a line, and there was no going back. Will Doug leave Salem? The question on everyone's lips is whether Doug will remain in Salem after this catastrophe. The town, once a place of second chances, feels like a prison to him now. Gabi's words echo in his mind, a constant reminder of the pain he's caused. Nicole, too, has made it clear that she wants nothing to do with him, her protective instincts toward Holly overriding any sympathy she might have once felt. Even Tate and Doug III, torn between loyalty and resentment, struggle to defend him. Spoilers hint that Doug's departure may be inevitable. His presence in Salem is a lightning rod for controversy, a reminder of a crisis that nearly destroyed two families. Some speculate that he'll leave quietly, slipping away under the cover of night to start anew somewhere far from the town's judgmental gaze. Others believe he'll fight to stay, seeking redemption through acts of contrition that may or may not sway Salem's residents. As we await the next chapter in this saga, one thing is certain: the kidnapping of Ariana and Holly has changed Salem forever. It's a stark reminder of how one person's choices can ripple outward, touching lives in ways both profound and devastating. Will Doug find a way to atone for his sins, or will he be driven out, a pariah in the town he once called home? Only time will tell, but for now, Salem holds its breath, waiting to see how this drama unfolds.